and enjoy it anymore because you've got so much baggage. You see? You're carrying such a load around in your mind that you can't see straight, you can't taste, you can't smell, your senses are numb, your life becomes relatively pointless because everything that you thought was going to give you happiness no longer does. And so you start saying, you know what, my bag's way too big. I gotta start letting go of some of my baggage. So you know what you do? You start turning your bag inward. You start to go back in through the hole. In other words, this is when the inquiry begins, when you start turning in, when you start pushing your bag back through that little hole. You see, you're withdrawing. And so sometimes while you're going back in, you start turning inward, you're going through the hole, and then sometimes you forget, and boom, you start filling your bag up again. And it's like an ongoing process. You're going in, you're going out. But gradually, you're unloading, you're bringing your baggage back through the hole with you. See, with the inquiry, the I is pulling the mind back inward into the source, emptying the bag. So the idea of thinking that you're going to be free of your baggage while you're still invested in things in the world, still trying to accomplish things in the world, still trying to be someone, it's futile. There are people who participate in practices that believe you are going to be able to stay in the world and realize the self. They are polar opposite. It is not going to happen. There is no surrender through identification with form. The only thing that you're surrendering to when you identify with form is the thing that you're looking at. The things that you're giving attention to is what you're surrendering to. If you're giving attention to money, that's your God. If you're giving attention to women or men, that's your God. Bodies are your God. Your job, that's your job. That's your God. If that's what you're giving attention to. Now, if you turn your attention inward toward the I am, and you give attention to the formless awareness, all those things are contained within it. So why not just give your attention to the I am, the awareness, which contains everything, and be done with it, so you don't have to pick and choose what you're going to give your attention to. You just give attention to that which contains everything. Then, you see your bag completely turns inside out. It dumps everything in your bag, pulls it right out the hole with you. And now you realize that you were the awareness that you were before you ever started to accumulate it. But that bag, you know, again, it may get bigger and smaller. You may think it's gone. It's completely gone, and then it starts to accumulate again, because you know you started on the spiritual path, and you know your bag started to shrink, and then all of a sudden, the mind didn't like that. You hit a pocket of vasana, and all of a sudden you start to grow it again, and it starts to grow, and you know, you were so close, right? You know, this is the mind's concept. I was almost enlightened, you see, and then you start to grow your bag again, and all of a sudden, 10 years later, 5 years later, you're more confused and more angry and irritated and nasty and feisty than you ever were. And you're frustrated and disappointed and disillusioned with your spiritual practice, and then you say, enough of this crap, I give up. Right? There is the beginning of the true sun. Until you realize that you don't know anything and that you have no control, until that realization occurs, until you become so miserable that you don't want anything else anymore, the true spiritual practice has not begun. That's when it begins.